Hey, everybody. This is Todd Albert from Boca Code coming to you live once again to talk some game development. I've been, it's funny, I'm not much of a gamer. Those of you who know me, I enjoy actually building games more than I enjoy playing them for the most part. The game's got to be really good for me to like it. So, but I've been really fortunate in my life that I've got to get to work on and build some really cool games. Um, and for mainly for clients, for a lot of like big Fortune 500 companies. So I want to talk to you today about, it doesn't matter what your game is, what game you're trying to develop, whether you're a solopreneur looking to, create the next big game, or you work for a big gaming company, or you're launching a big gaming company and you have hundreds of employees. You're Even if you have artists working on your project, even if you have level designers, scene designers, all this stuff working on your project, you still, in order for, say, one of your programmers to work on the behavior, they can't necessarily, or maybe you can't afford for them to wait for your scene designers to create those scenes. So it's really powerful and really useful to be able to quickly prototype and mock up something that is sorry that is mock up a game, make a prototype, get something where you can test it, you can show it to clients really quickly and easily. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me jump on over to this screen, and if I can uncover the play button, there we go. So this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about rapidly prototyping games in Unity using pre-built assets. I want to recognize my sponsors of this, which is Boca Code, which is a new type of code school in Palm Beach County that is run by professors and real developers who are actively working in the industry. I'll tell you a bit more about Boca Code in a couple minutes. Palm Beach Tech also, which is also something quite unique. If you're not involved in the Palm Beach Tech community, you're really doing yourself a disservice. So get involved. Go to palmbeachtech.org/Slack. Join their Slack channel. It's amazing. You can also, if you're looking for a job, post a resume there. There's job posts galore. We also, if you go to bocacode.com, you can join our Slack. In the last like 57 days, I've posted, or 58 days, we've posted 58 jobs now, mainly for developers, but all kinds of jobs. So come check it out. Both communities are really helpful and really useful. So let's, with that said, I want to, I'm going to throw up my video there now that I'm covering the logos and jump into this. Most of today is going to be really hands-on. I'm going to jump over into Unity and into the Unity Asset Store and show you some stuff. But I just wanted to give you a quick primer on this of what we're going to be talking about. So to prototype, to use pre-built assets, the first thing you need to think about is choosing those assets, right? So how are you going to choose those assets? Well, number one, you want to plan your game, right? So you have to have an idea. I see this all the time. Somebody's like, "Ooh, I want to build a game." So they go to the Unity Asset Store and they start downloading assets, and there's some great stuff there, but they don't even know what they're looking for. They just find something and build the game based on that. So I recommend is come up with an idea of what the style of your game is going to be, what the gameplay is going to be like, what the environment is going to be like. And once you've made those decisions, then find assets that match. So for today, what I'm looking for is a style that's kind of semi-realistic, not too cartoony, but not photorealistic, right? These are just decisions that I made for the type of assets I'm going to look for. The gameplay is going to be kind of third person, right? Like camera over the shoulder where you see your full character. And the environment, maybe I want to do like semi-primitive, like village type, maybe set on an island or something like that, right? So these are just, some ideas of, and this is all you really need to do in order to start thinking about it. Or maybe what type of game are you is it a survival game? Are you going to be killing people? Is it melee? Is it first person shooter, etc.? But we're not, just this is the depth that we're going to go into today. And then, what you want to do is you want to jump over into the asset store and start finding matching assets. Now, if these don't necessarily have to be the perfect assets for your game, because remember, today we're just trying to prototype. We're just trying to build an MVP or just something to really test out and get a feel of, hey, is this game going to work? Is this going to make sense? Right? So what you want to do is you want to find an engine that matches the type of gameplay that you want. You want an environment that matches the environment that you came up with, a character or sets of characters that fit with what you're looking for. And, and maybe you have your own art department, like I said, and, maybe you can find some characters in the asset store and say, hey, I want something that looks like this, or, has this kind of feel, but this kind of character, whatever. But by having these assets, you can, it's a lot more useful to show your art department, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And then there's things like props, and weapons and all kinds of stuff. And then you get into music and sound effects and ambient noise and all that stuff. But this stuff, as you go down, becomes kind of less important in terms of prototyping the game. So for me, what we're going to do today is we're going to use a pre-built movement engine by a company called Invector. Now, I'm using paid assets today. I've bought a lot of these assets before, so I have access to them. But there's a lot of free assets. I wasn't focused on free assets for this. But in the past, when I first started with game development, I would really hone in on the free or, under $10 kind of assets. And sometimes you're not sure of the quality you're getting. These here are really high quality assets. So Invector makes a first person shooter. They make a third person, they make a melee engine. What I didn't know when I first bought them is the first person shooter actually comes with all of them. So I made the mistake of buying multiple and then bought the first person shooter at the end, not realizing. So, keep that in mind, that sometimes these assets, the same thing with Gaia. I bought Gaia and then later upgraded to Gaia Pro, which they gave me a discount on. So you're going to see Gaia Pro for those of you who've played with Gaia a little bit. You're going to see the Pro version today. And then for characters, there's an artist that I really like, Maxim Bergerov, who creates these really beautiful models. I just grabbed his PBR Fighters kit, which comes with 15 really well designed and already rigged characters for $5. I mean, it's crazy. So these are the main assets these are the assets we're going to be using today. So let's jump into it and get going. So here is the asset store for those of you who are, haven't been or aren't familiar. Really, really amazing stuff. I mean, you could see, under 3D here, there's over 33,000 3D assets, right? There's, almost 10,000 characters, 7,000 environments, 10,000 props. Really amazing. There's 2D, a lot of 2D stuff, machine learning, sound, music effects, ambient sounds, all kinds of stuff. A lot of free assets, tutorials, amazing, amazing stuff. I'm just going to show you what we're going to be using today is Invector, their third-person shooter template. Really, really robust. Actually, I think we may be just using today really their just basic motion. Let me jump out to that. I'm good. I've imported the third person shooter, but this third person controller basic function, this is free. So here they have a free version of this, which is quite robust. It has inventory management. It has, these incredible movements, ragdoll effects on death, health, and stamina. Really robust. So check that out. So we're going to be using this. Basically this free version is what we're going to be focused on today. And please, if you have any questions as we go, pop them into the comments in YouTube, and I'm going to see those live. So I can react, so we can make this more interactive. So please, if you're watching live, pop some comments in. I've got my one of my coworkers is in there, popping links in as we go, being amazing as always. But please feel free to ask questions, reach out if you're watching live. So this is this artist Maxim Bergerov, or Bergamov. Sorry, been mispronouncing that. And the detail on Maxim's models is really cool. Lot of really cool stuff. And this is one of his cheaper models here. It's 15 of these, these characters, almost like for a fighting game, right? Already all set up. Really high quality stuff. So check that out. And then finally, we're going to use Gaia, which is it's by a company called Procedural Worlds. But what it does is it procedurally generates your world. Okay. So let's get into real quick how, so we're going to jump right into Unity here. Okay. And what I want to first, let me show you how to import these. We're not going to import them because they can take a lot of time to import. So I'm going to try and I already have these imported to save time, but I just want to show you in Unity, you can switch over to the asset store. You can look at assets you've already purchased by clicking My Assets. And then right here, what you first do is you first have to, if you haven't used the asset yet, you have to download. Then once it's downloaded, you import, which, it could take a couple of minutes to download. It could take a couple of minutes to start the import. Then you get a pop-up asking you which of the assets you want to import, and then it could take a while. So it's really, it could really be time consuming. I didn't want to do that live. So what I've done here is I've already imported. You could see down here in my assets, I've got fighters, which is the Maxim Bergerov's fighters. I've got Procedural Worlds is Gaia, which we're going to spend some time in, and then the Invector set. So let's start with Invector, and we're just going to go into the basic. You see here I have the shooter, the melee, inventory management, but let's just start with the basic locomotive motion. We're going to go to the demo scenes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this demo scene. I'm usually not used to working in big icons like this, but I thought it was easier to read. So I've made a duplicate here, and we could just call this, we'll call this the prototype scene, right? And let's load up that scene, and you can see what comes right off of, right off the bat here. We have over here in our hierarchy here now, we have the Hive, which is like a training grounds. And we have a UI. We have an event system, game controller, some lights. We have our VBasic controller, which this is actually our character. And if I double click on Mesh LOD, it'll jump you right into that character. I'm going to spin around and show you this character from the front. So it's a kind of robot-esque character that comes pre-built. And one thing you can notice over here on the inspector on the right hand side is for those of you who've heard some of my game development talks, we talk about LOD, level of detail, right? So what's really cool is as I zoom in and out of this character, you can see the camera, right, where I'm viewing this character from, slide down these different levels of detail, right? So I zoom out and I get to LOD 1, which is a lower level of detail, zoom out some more, LOD 2, LOD 3, which the character is still there. Maybe I can, there we go, view from above. And then if I zoom out a little further, boom, you could see culled, which means they no longer are rendering that character from that distance. So I no longer can see that. I don't know if you can see that streaming, but as I zoom in, I get these different levels of detail. But for a third-person game, we don't need these level of details for this character, for our character, because we're going to have the camera right over their shoulder all the time. We're going to be up close and personal. So we won't need these LODs. But what I want to show you real quick is just what, right out of the box, this Invector basic locomotion, which I believe is completely like the free version. I'm going to show you real quickly what you get out of the box. And I don't think over streaming you hear all the sound effects, but you can see I can walk. We've got this great animation. I can roll. I can jump. I can do all kinds of things. So there's inventory management. You can see if I look up at that diagram there's you could climb over walls. There's really quite a lot, and they give you this cool demo scene where you can die, you can jump, you can climb ladders, get weapons, do all kinds of things. So right off the bat, you have this functionality, and we're going to utilize that functionality. But what I want to do is I want to go into under my assets, into fighters, and then into prefabs, and I have those 15 fighters that we brought in, and you can preview those over here. I know my video is covering up their feet, but you could get a sense preview in 3D. Very cool. Thank you, Unity. So I'm just gonna pick one of these, and I'm gonna pick one. There's some males, there's some females, there's some really funky ones, big fat ones like our sumo guy. I think number 9 is a ninja, which I kind of like. And actually, yeah, the ninja I want to use, and I want to use this one for a reason. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace our little Kyle robot guy here with this fighter number 9, which is our ninja. So I'm just going to drag this. Well, before I do that, if you notice, this is blue here. Blue here means that it's a prefab. So prefab is a way you can actually combine a bunch of objects in a certain way and store them and save them where you can use it over and over again, and it's very memory efficient. But I'm going to unpack that prefab, right click and say unpack prefab here, and which allows me to now edit this this object. Now I'm going to just grab fighter 9, drag it right under this VBasic controller, and what you might see here in my scene is that the ninja and the robot are now occupying the same exact space, right? So you can see here's my Kyle robot mesh LOD, and if I turn that off, now you see just my ninja in the same spot. So that's cool. Already the right size, scale, position. Okay. I can also, yeah, so this is already set up for me. I'm pretty pleased. There's 2 more changes I need to make this character work. One of them is in the VBasic controller, I need to change the avatar that is being animated here. So I'm going to click this, and it brings up all the avatars in that I have. So I just need to find Fighter 9, which remember, this is Fighter 9. I'm going to say, nope, I want to animate Fighter 9 when we play. And there's one other thing I have to do that you shouldn't always have to do, but I happen to know there's a bug with this particular character, which is why I chose it. But you don't necessarily know that playing off the bat. So you're going to see now what happens when I go to play with this guy, and you can see it moves and it jumps, right? But he's not animated, okay? And why is that? This has happened to me before, and you could really bang your head. It turns out, of these 15 characters from the Maxim Bergmarov set, about 4 of them behave like this. The other 11 animate just fine. So what gives? Well, if this ever happens to you, if you go into fighters and you go into the character and you go to Fighter 9 and you look at the mesh, you bring up the mesh, which just looks like this. It's the 3D model of the character without any textures or anything. And you click on, so there's here you can see the model, the rig, the animation. It is not rigged. It's not rigged as a humanoid. So he just missed this on a couple. So all we have to do is choose humanoid there, hit apply. Now, once this is done, which takes a second, now it knows that this is a bipedal character. Okay, that's it. Now we can go back, play our scene, and look at how different it is. So notice his arms drop. Now when he walks, his arms swing. You can see a slight, heaving of the chest and shoulders as dude can walk, run, roll, jump, even slide, right? So all kinds of cool animations. One of my favorite of which is I got stuck in the spikes. Well, it also has the Ragdoll death animation. I wanted to show you that. So great. We've got our character. It's animated. It has all the behaviors we want, right? It's all set up. But remember, we wanted like a primitive type island environment. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get rid of the hive. Delete. Now he's floating in an infinite space. There's our ninja. We're going to get rid of the lighting, the indoor lighting. We don't need that. We're going to open up this user interface, which had all kinds of crap in it. And we're going to get rid of the tutorial canvas. We're going to get rid of the promo, which is the Invector logo. And then again, I want to edit this this prefab here. So I'm going to unpack it, right click, say unpack prefab. And then I'm going to get rid of displaying the controls, which I think is ugly. The debug panel, which is ugly. I'll get rid of that too, but we want to leave the damage. So, when the guy takes damage, it'll like kind of flash the screen red. Then the health and stamina bars, I'll leave those. So now we've got a nice little setup. I'm going to save my scene. And, so we've got our engine. We've got the Invector engine. We've got our character. We've got, this fighter number 9 from Maxim Bergmarov, right? So now what do we need is we need our environment. And this is a bit more involved. There's all kinds of pre-built environments. The last time I gave this talk, the last couple of times I gave this talk, I used a pre-built environment. But what I wanted to show you today is procedurally generated environments. So how do we do that? It's a little bit more involved. So I've already installed Gaia, which is my favorite procedural world generator. It's probably the standard one. And so if I go to Windows Procedural Worlds Gaia, show Gaia Manager. And now notice the shortcut for this on a Mac is Command G. I believe it's Control G on Windows. I'm not going to go through this. I use shortcut keys all the time. So just know, here's how to get to this. But if you see me quick, popping it over to it quickly, I'm just using Command G. But and in fact, since I'm going to be using it often today, I'm going to drag this right up here and dock it right up here with my inspector and other things here. So let's take a look real briefly here at what we get with the Gaia Manager. So standard, we have, setup and where you can choose your render pipeline. It will also tell you if there's anything else that needs to be installed. So if you haven't, let me just pop this open, your package manager. If you haven't already installed post-processing, it will tell you that you need to install post-processing. And what we can actually do is let's remove post-processing. This might seem simple. This might seem silly, but we're going to actually remove that. Bear with us a second, because I want you to see what the world looks like without the post-processing. I hope I didn't just break my project. This happens. Spinning wheel. There we go. Okay. So we'll come back to that package manager. We'll reinstall post-processing later. So now it would tell you, hey, you need to install post-processing. Not sure that it's not picking that up yet. But the real key here is these world creation settings. So what you want to do is you want to decide how big of a world do we need, right? Is this going to be some giant, multiplayer, massive world where people can roam and you can, walk for days and days, a really large environment, so you can choose from tiny to extra large, customize it. If you hit the plus sign here, you can really dig into these, dig into the specifics here. So how many tiles is it, right? How many terrain tiles is it? How big are those terrain tiles? So you can see right now I have a 2 by 2 kilometer terrain, right? That's the default for large. And we're just going to leave it at that. But you could see I can make larger tiles. I could change the number of tiles. Don't dig in too much to the math here, but that's the world size. So we're just going to stay with the standard large. The quality, are you doing mobile or VR or ultralight? Where you just want like a real quick, fast world, which for prototyping, you might want to do that, or powerful desktop. We're just going to keep with the target desktop. And then in Gaia Pro, we have all these different biomes or types of environments we can create. I'll do the forest village, right? In Bond, in each of these biome types. So you can see here we get the texture, we get villages, stone, stumps, and I'm going to show you this more as we get into it. But you could see, Alpine Meadow, you get a different set. The Gaia Pro sample, different set. But let's just try the forest village, okay? And again, you can continue to dig into these different world settings. The only thing I've changed that wasn't the default is my biome so far, right? Everything else I'm going with the default. It also, when you procedurally generate this world, you can also add like a third person or first person player, or just a flying camera, which is the default. You can choose a type of sky. I've made my own custom one, which is basically just the procedural world sky with a little more fog. That's all that is. Ocean, do you want a lake, a deep blue ocean, clear blue ocean, etc.? You can do all kinds of things. How much wind do you want? etc., etc. So these are, you don't even really need to dig into these unless you want to. So I'm just showing you them here. This is just in the standard tab. In the advanced tab, you can really get into like different tools and break things down one by one. The extensions, there's some pre-built extensions like handling time of day, partners, things like that. And then in help here, you can get quick access to like tutorials, their, tickets, etc. It's really cool. But let's just jump into it. So in the standard, I'm going to hit create terrain and tools. So what this is going to do is this is going to actually lay out a terrain for me, and it's going to create the tools to allow me to stamp that terrain. Now, what are we seeing here? Okay, this is just, and I'm gonna dock my stamp browser. Whoa, dock my stamp browser here. So what we have here, let me back out just a tinge. What we have here is just a flat terrain. I know it doesn't look that, but then we have a stamp here. So if we go to the inspector, it's saying, all right, we want to apply this Andes Mountain stamp, that's the chosen stamp, to our terrain. So we can choose a different stamp here. We can raise and lower this, right? So you could take the Andes Mountains way up high, or you can lower it until you get more like a mountainous island environment. So you can see this is just preview, the blue-green. Blue is shallow water, green is land, and then the purple color here is deep water. And so you can see, I can raise and lower this to adjust where my sea level is and how high up I'm going to stamp this, right? But there's a ton of different stamps. There's different mountains, which I can toggle through with the arrows. And there's also different types of stamps. So there's islands, which we said, maybe we would do an island, where's my island? There we go. So here's my island. Again, you can raise and lower it. All different kinds of islands. So let's play with this one right here. This looks cool. Another one I really like is in the valley. You get this Kumash Valley. There's other ones as well, but this is really cool. You can, just kind of have like a nice broad play area with some water. But let's jump back and do the island. And I want some nice flat areas. So, I think this will be fine. We've got some flatter areas over here. So let's do that. And what we're going to do in order to apply this, so this is just a preview, right? Our actual terrain looks like that. Well, you can turn the preview on or off. And this is just a preview of what will happen if we stamp it, right? So we're applying this stamp to our terrain. And then what's also going to happen is it's going to automatically apply each of these stampers. And before I describe that to you, I'm going to hit stamp and let this go, because this is going to actually take a little while. So it stamped the terrain, then it applied the textures. So you can maybe see up here, the higher, steeper mountain areas are rocky. Then you got so it applies these different textures. Then it goes into the next line here is villages. So it actually adds villages and buildings, then stones. And so you can see there's stones, it added stumps, and it's actually each one of these has its own set of rules. So in other words, it's not going to take a steep slope like this and put a boulder on it, right? That doesn't occur naturally. It's going to look for flat areas and add the stones there. It'll grow trees out of where there's soil, not on steep slopes, things like that. And then once it gets through with the spruce, deciduous, and pine trees, it goes to bushes, then to ferns, then flowers, then grasses, and then finally, it in the pro version of Gaia, you add visual effects, which are things like birds and butterflies and little bit of dust or pollen, falling leaves, those kind of particle effects. And then it also adds like ambient sounds and some music to, which I don't think that over streaming those will show up. But let's just see what that created right there. So let me take my, well, before we go, I just want to show you where our fighter is. Okay, he's still here, floating in the middle of nowhere, way underneath that terrain, right? So we're looking up through the terrain, which is a planar, which so it doesn't, terrain only renders on the top side, not the bottom. So we're looking up through the terrain. This is just to show you like, oh, our guy is way far underneath the terrain, right? Way, way far. So the terrain gets built up high and our guy is down here. So we need to move him up on top of the terrain. If I hit play now, our ninja is just going to fall endlessly. So I'm going to grab the third person, the VBasic controller and the third person camera, and I'm going to drag them up vertically to pop them up into the sky. Now I'm going to look from above. So we have like a map view here, and find an interesting area of my map, maybe somewhere over here. So I'm going to drag them over there. And now I'll look from the side to try and locate this guy vertically where we want him. Let's zoom in. Okay, I went a little too far down, it looks like. So let me zoom out, pull him up. And there's other ways of doing this, of course. Ooh, looks like I did pretty good. If you zoom in pretty close, you can look at the feet as you drag up and down, and you could see if I push him down too far, his feet disappear. So I want to pull him up so his feet are just above the ground level. And let's look around, and we could see, oh look, he's right near a little village, right? He's, there's some beach nearby, trees and grasses and all kinds of things. And this was just, we basically did this with a single click. We said, in the Gaia Manager, we just said create terrain and tools, and then we chose the colorful island too, and we hit stamp, right? So basically 3 clicks essentially to get here. Well, what do we have now? So let me just save my scene, and then let's play. Oops, I got a compiler error. Ruh-roh. Post-process profile could not be found. Okay, so the cool trick of me trying to say let's add post-processing later didn't work. So let's install that. I wanted to show you like the view. Well, we can still. I'll show you. I'll show you the view with and without post-processing. Because if you're not using post-processing in your game and you want any kind of semi-realism, not a cartoon or 8-bit style type game, but more of a semi-realistic game like this, you definitely want to be using post-processing. And where would that go? Usually on your camera here. So let's look, and you can see on my camera, there's no post-processing. Another thing I want to point out right here before we hit play, this camera was set up inside the Hive, right? Remember this all started inside that little training thing. So we want to actually adjust our settings here for this new environment, being outdoors basically. And the main thing we want to do is our clipping plane. Like we talked about on Monday, the clipping plane is how far the camera can see where things will get rendered. So actually, if I don't adjust this, I'm going to adjust the near. I'll change that to 0.3. But yeah, well, let's do this. Let's turn the camera far up to 2000. That'll be good. We're going to save. We're going to play. And then what I want to do is I want to show you what happens when we adjust that clipping plane. So here we are. remember I deleted the light, so there's really no lighting, right? If I look around, the grasses are swaying a little, the trees are swaying a little, but the lighting is terrible. The shading is awful. The texturing is awful, right? And that's fine. At this point, that's fine. When we look off in the distance, I want to see, maybe if I run up to the top of this hill, take a quick run up to the top of this hill, and you look off in the distance and see the mountains and so forth. Well, what happens if I crank my clipping plane, and I'm going to exaggerate this greatly, down to 200? Did you see the mountains in the distance disappeared, right? Crank it back up. Oh, mountains are back. So it's how far away are we rendering things, right? Oh, this is only rendering stuff that's 20 meters out, 200 meters out, 2,000 meters, 2 kilometers out. So your far clipping plane, you really need that cranked up for being outdoors and keeping things looking good. The other thing you might notice is when I look out in the distance where, we're on an island, but we're seeing brown in the distance. So we are not done yet by any means. And that's fine. If you noticed in the Gaia Manager, creating the terrain and tools was step 1. Step 2 is create player, skies, water, wind, and screenshotter. And then step 3, bake lighting. So what we want to do is we want to do just that. But since I already have a character, I don't want to add that. But I'm going to add my wind zone. I'm going to add my water, and you'll see immediately, boom, out in the distance now, we've got water. And I'm going to add a global weather control, right? Now, if I go back to my inspector and to Gaia Global, I've got some really interesting things going on here, right? I can control the time of day, like this, evening, morning, night, right? So let's just keep it at day. I can actually control the hour and the minute of the day. So if I want to adjust the shading, right? So I can actually cycle through the day. This is in Gaia Pro. So let's take a look at that. I can also change my chance of weather, where snow-capped peaks occur, all kinds of fun stuff. Chance of rain. I could start rain, start snow. Really cool stuff. But before I do this, I want to also add to my camera here. I want to add the post-processing layer to my camera. Whoops, did I do that right? And yeah. So now when we hit play, things should look quite a bit different. Bear with me. Oops. So now we've got such different lighting, especially having the water. You could see some birds flying, the nice visual effects, right? And one of my favorite things in Gaia is the water. So I wanted to get down there, see birds flying, really, really great stuff. I don't know why this guy won't run. He was stuck somewhere. Anyway, looks really cool. And we can actually go into Gaia and we could say, make it rain, right? And watch, clouds will roll in, right? Oops, I haven't baked the shading. That's why you get those glitches. But now we've got, it's raining. Okay, I can stop the rain. And it I love how it gently transitions. The rain moves out, right? I can look around, look up in the sky. I can, if I If I don't like the time of day, I can change that, right? Make it later. And at night, you can see the moonrise. I'm just jumping hour to hour. So you get a nice moonrise. You've got beautiful stars, starry skies, and you still see the clouds. Really very, very cool effects. Get like a little aurora effect. Let's come back to early to morning. And whoops, I've gotten some weird clipping effects there. But anyway, this is quick look at how nicely this does. If I go here and I turn off post-processing, I don't have the right post-processing layer, but anyway, if instead, let me stop. If instead we go into Gaia and we create the player, it creates a much better quality camera with all kinds of really great post-processing and all sorts of stuff. We can then bake the lighting, which really improves like shading and shadows and so forth. It creates reflection maps and all kinds of stuff that greatly improve this. Before we end here, I want to also show you. Let's get this guy down closer to the water, because I just want to show you how sexy the water looks in this version. So let's drop him down. Bear with me. Sorry, I know there's like quicker, easier ways of doing this, or better ways. I should say, not quicker. This is just kind of quick and dirty. There we go. And let's drop and plop this guy. Jeez. Losing my fighter. Here we go. There, I think that should do us. All right, let's just hit play. Hopefully he's not too high up. That'll take fall damage and his feet aren't below the ground. That's the key with positioning your characters. See, he was too far below the ground, so he just dropped. But there you have, look at that, ragdoll effects, underwater effects. You got the sound, the splashing, the bubbling, the churning. That's that's all part of this. Really cool. But let me back out and pull this guy up. And I guess I can use the inspector to set the height. That would be smart. Bear with me for one more minute. Here we go. Boom. All right. So, all right, we're going to leave that. I just wanted to show you how beautiful the water is, but probably over streaming it, the quality of the animation is not so amazing either. But I also want to take a moment while I have you guys and show you, if you're interested in this stuff, we have a week-long course on this. So this was just, 1 hour, quick and dirty, quick prototyping. But we're offering a week-long, this is a paid course. It's a 1-week boot camp where you really go soup to nuts through all of this stuff. We're gonna use VR. We're gonna actually build VR games. You will in the end, at the end of the week, you will have your own game on your phone or on your laptop, completely playable game that's custom that you designed. And also, I just want to show on our website, if you go to bocacode.com, we have these online workshops so here's what you're watching right now. And tomorrow we have a workshop. Friday we have 2, including programming in Unity, which, if you're interested in this, you might want to check out that one as well. We have, I'm doing some cool DevOps on July 7th, doing a couple of other career workshops in early July, and another game fundamentals in early July. So these are some cool online workshops. You can see we're posting these, constantly updating these every day. So if you go, tomorrow, this one will be gone, and maybe some new ones. So check with us these online workshops. If you scroll up, you also get our level up courses. So starting in 2 weeks, in a week and a half, I'm doing a full intro to JavaScript Node 1 week boot camp, followed by the following week. So it's kind of a two-parter. You could take these separately. So if you already know JavaScript and just want to learn React, you could take the second week. If you want to learn JavaScript and learn React, you could take them both. We're also offering 2 full week game development boot camps, one on August and one in December, and then a couple of others as coming up as well, including a 1 week UX course and a 2-day data analytics and Python course. So that's right from our website. And also there's a single button here where you can join our Slack group. It's one click. You go to bocacode.com, one click to join our Slack. And we'd love to have you as part of our community. And we post jobs, we post tips, we post events. It's a great community, lots of discussion. So highly recommend checking this out, as well as, our friends over at palmbeachtech.org. Check them out as well. 2 great communities to get involved in. Thanks for joining us. I hope to see you again real soon.